conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, all. I'd like to call the Village of Ephraim Board meeting to order. It is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026 at 7 p.m. And Brent, we have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, any changes in the agenda?
No changes, Ken.
Okay, and then we'll start with visitors' comments. If anyone in person or online has a comment? Okay, seeing none. Then we'll go to approval of the previous minutes. Our last board meeting was February 10th, 2026 at 7 p.m. If we have a motion for that to approve.
I move to approve the February 10th, 2026 regular board meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you, Carly. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Number 6, President's comments. Once again, you're fortunate. I have none. Number 7, the consent agenda items. Could I have a motion to approve those?
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Carly. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any changes? Corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, they are approved. Then number 8, under administration, A, presentation from Mike Jones from USDA Wildlife Services regarding Canada goose damage management. Hello, Mike. The floor is yours. It'll glow green.
All
You're
right,
on.
we're going green. Okay, good. Well, I'll keep this moving here. You guys are going pretty quick here. I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about some goose damage management options that are available that people don't really know a whole lot about. What I'm going to talk about is some of the non-lethal things you could try, exclusion, habitat management, and then probably a lot of those being already tried already. And talk then a little bit about the next step in the process, which is more along the lines of lethal removal, like nest and egg destruction, and then the goose roundup and removal process. I'm part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Our division is called Wildlife Services, and we specialize in nuisance wildlife management. Then you can go to the next slide. We're a federal agency that we specialize in wildlife damage management. In Wisconsin, the DNR turns all goose issues over to our agency, mainly because geese are a federally protected bird. They also have state protection. And then, so it sometimes takes a lot, the same permits or the right permits to do this. So that's why in Wisconsin, we're the only ones that can do these roundup and removals. Next slide. Just some basic goose biology here. There's kind of 2 distinct populations of geese in Wisconsin. There's the birds that are coming back right now, spring migrants. You see them all over the place. Our office is based out of Waupun, just loaded with geese right now. Those birds really don't have an affinity to any spot. They're just kind of moving through, don't cause a lot of problems. Next slide. The real issue with geese is the resident birds that stay here darn near year round. They live a very long time. They'll live up to 20 years at a time. They're pretty productive too. They'll raise, they'll hatch, they'll have like up to a dozen eggs, but on average, about 5 of those survive to be, geese. They're super adaptable, and they're very adapted to live right by humans. And basically with geese, wherever they learn to fly, that's where they tend to come back to year after year after year. These birds in Wisconsin, they don't really go that far south anymore. They found that they essentially just go to Chicago or wherever there's open water. They'll stay on the rooftops of some of the big warehouses there, and then to go and feed at the rail yards there on corn. It's pretty incredible that they don't really go that far south anymore. So these are the birds that cause most of the problems here in Wisconsin. Next slide. They really don't have many natural predators. All these, like the raccoon, skunk, coyote, and fox, are more of an egg predator rather than a bird predator themselves. They really can't really control that population much, and so it just keeps kind of growing and growing. Next slide. The DNR has 2 hunting seasons, particularly for these different populations of geese. The one that's targeted for the resident birds starts September 1st, goes through the 15th every year. It's kind of trying to get that population down. They'll allow you to shoot up to 5 birds a day. And it's targeted because they know that's kind of an issue with these resident birds. That's designed to get here before the migrant birds show up, that, kind of later in September through December. Those birds are around, they have a longer season, but a low bag limit when the migrant birds start coming here in December. Next slide. Like I mentioned, they're super adaptable. That's downtown Milwaukee. We get calls from people with birds nesting on rooftops. I don't know what it is with coals, but they love to nest in the coals shrubbery by there. Every year I get a call from a coal somewhere in the state about geese are attacking people as they're coming into. But geese are really homed in on looking for water right next to mowed grass. That is an absolute goose magnet for them. So wherever you have that, you're probably going to have geese. Next slide. The main issue with geese is the feces they leave behind. They leave behind 1 to 2 pounds of feces per bird per day. And that super adds up there. That picture with the geese in it, there's 70 geese there. That's 70 pounds of feces in that park a day. So that adds up pretty darn quickly. And then those geese, if they have a pond, I mean, it not really, doesn't pertain to here, but, they'll eat the first thing that they come to, and a lot of erosion and all that feces goes right into the water. That's a park on the lower right there in the Fox Valley. Just beautiful park. They restored, but the geese would come there every night, stay there, leave their calling card, and then leave. They had to power wash that virtually every day. So that results in seldom used parks and beaches. Some of the communities we worked with, they budget $10,000 just to have the lifeguards remove the goose feces every day from the beach so it's usable. So it really adds up in costs too. Next slide. Geese can be aggressive a little bit, particularly during the nesting season only. They're kind of protective of geese, and urban birds are much more aggressive than any kind of rural birds. There's a strike on the Hudson that, birds near airports is never a good thing. But, with that feces, geese are a harbor for the parasite that causes swimmer's itch. Ducks are too. So wherever oftentimes you have a lot of geese, you often have issues with swimmer's itch. It comes to be found. But the main concern with geese is all that feces left behind, and they have high E. coli levels in it that gets on kids' hands. They go put their peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the mouth, and in it goes. So that's the main concern with geese. Next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the goose damage management options out there, and probably a lot of these are already being tried. I've seen fences along here over the years and different decoys and things like that to deter the birds. I'm going to talk about that just real briefly. Okay, next slide. Probably not much of an issue here, but having if people feed geese, that's absolutely the worst thing you can do. It congregates more, disrupts what they're naturally going to. They act like decoys for other birds and brings them right in. So it's good to have a no feeding ordinance of any sort to kind of deter that. Next slide. Letting habitat or the shoreline grow up where birds they like to see what's on the other side. So if you let the shoreline grow up, they don't really know for sure what's on the other side. They like to see any potential predator coming. That can help. The problem is beaches here are super hard to deter geese and prevent them from coming right from that access to water right up on where your parks are at. Altering that habitat so it's kind of harder for them to navigate over those rocks can help. Letting that grass grow even just a little bit longer can help because they really like that highly manicured grass. But sometimes nothing deters the geese if that's where they want to be. Next slide. There's different kinds of exclusion. There's overhead grids or we put these by ponds or by airports because geese need a landing strip to kind of break that up. A lot of different designs of fences out there that I don't know if it shows up really well, but that split rail fence actually worked fairly well because it's got a line about 5 to 6 inches off the ground that prevented the geese from going right from the lake right up to the park. There's geese everywhere else except behind here, and then you get closer and that's what you see. But that site with the dock there, that actually was a situation over by Stevens Point where the geese would come up the boat launch, go right out on the dock, stay there all night, and then leave quite a mess. So that kind of solved that problem, putting that fence up every night, or so they couldn't access that at night. Next slide. There's a lot of different harassment and techniques and repellents out there. There's audio distress calls, or actually calls of geese in distress recordings. They are super effective in the short term, but not in the long term. They get used to that pretty darn quick. The Scarecrow Gizmo there, that's actually a motion sensing water sprayer. It actually works fairly well. It's particularly if you have one particular spot on a lake lot where the geese are coming up, you put that, it senses the motion and it blasts a pretty strong arc of water. But that on a large scale basis for parks, that's not a practical tool. There's some repellents you can put on the grass that make the geese distasteful for them. The problem with repellents is they're pretty darn expensive and they got to be reapplied about every 3 weeks. They work in a real small areas where you don't have, we just need to protect a little bit like lake lot of some sort, but not on a wide scale basis. Trained dogs all in Milwaukee. They'll come and chase geese away with border collies. Not really an option here because it just kind of pushes the problem somewhere else. It does work for like an individual business that has that. Pyrotechnics are essentially, I kind of refer to them as fireworks on steroids. They kind of shoot out at them. They whistle, they bang. They work pretty good, but you can't just do those every day because that's what it's going to take to get the geese deterred. There's some remote control devices out there that kind of harass geese. That it's kind of like that gizmo right in the middle there. It's called a Goosinator. It's a remote control, I guess, an effigy of a predator of some sort. It's about $3,000 for that thing. It does work. Like the city of Madison has one, but they have staff that go around to all their parks to chase them off. And actually, here's our friend, Mr. Coyote up there. I actually took that picture in Door County here years ago. There was geese right beside it, right before I took it, so I couldn't catch them. But those will be effective in the short term, but just they get used to that over time, and it just doesn't deter the birds. Next slide. So if you exclude them, you kind of remove how they, what they want to be, or either alter the habitat, do harassment. The next step in the process is to do population management, and that's essentially achieved through three different methods. There's the hunting seasons that the DNR has that are particularly that early goose season. Also, you can reduce nesting success by spraying the eggs with corn oil. That prevents oxygen transfer across the egg membrane. The egg is not viable. The key is the goose doesn't know that, and they shut down the reproductive system after so many days into incubation. And then when they don't hatch, they can't re-nest. The problem with that, and I'll talk about all these things in more detail in a second, is that it's really hard to find the nest. They love to nest on islands and peninsulas, and they can hide them pretty good. And then they just gravitate to the parks that they want to be to afterward. And then the last option, and that's what our agency can kind of help out with, is actually a roundup removal of the birds during their flightless period. So next slide. Geese are federally protected by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, but they've turned over goose roundups options to the state. So there's also a state issued permit by the DNR that allows you to do the egg oiling and the roundup and removal option there. Next. Nest destruction, it limits population growth. That oiling, like I said, limits re-nesting because those birds don't know that their nest is not viable, and then when it doesn't hatch, it's too late. It's sometimes one of the benefits of nesting or doing egg oiling is that those adult birds will leave the site and go somewhere else for the rest of the summer to molt. I do this, I cover the whole southern half of Wisconsin, and when I give talks in the southern half of Wisconsin, I always say, a lot of your birds, if you oil their nest, those adults will probably go to Door County. So that's what actually does happen. Like Escanaba gets loaded with birds, adult-sized birds that are often non-breeding juveniles that just aren't breeding age yet, or some of these that have their nests failed for whatever reason, raccoon, somebody oiling, and then they come north and go through that mole. Oiling is pretty quick, cheap, and effective. The good time to oil is that those eggs have to be incubated for at least 5 days, and they don't start incubating until they lay all the eggs in the clutch. So that a good time for Wisconsin, usually tax time. April 15th is a good time to oil nests, and if you can find them. And that is by far the most difficult issue. I guarantee there's nests on the island out here right out from Peninsula State Park. I'm sure that's probably an ideal spot where those geese love to nest there. To oil in Wisconsin, it takes a permit issued by the DNR. I have to actually sign off on it on the southern half of the state here. And then there's registration on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service website that's required. Next slide. The roundup and removal option, the DNR only allows our agency to do this. And I didn't mention this earlier on, but it's always good to have an open public meeting, just like you're doing now, to have input on geese. So we require that as our agency, because there's a whole range of opinions on how about geese. Somebody completely loves all of them, and some other folks want them all completely gone. So having an open public meeting is one of our requirements and the DNR's requirements on if you're considering doing a roundup and removal. Like in the picture there, you can see those primaries is what it's called. It's all their wing feathers, and they lose those all at one time, but they can grow them back in about 3 weeks. So they're super fast growing. But that is the window of opportunity that geese can be captured and removed. Like I said, it's usually about the June 15th through about the 4th of July. And usually by then, the juvenile birds that have hatched in the year, they can fly about that first week or so in July. So that's the window that they can be captured and removed. The DNR puts bans on them, but they're only allow our agency to come and remove them from folks that have issues all across the state. Next slide. The geese are actually, since they can't fly, how they're captured is we push them up onto land. We have kayaks and remote control boats and John boats and that type of thing. And then if you can see there, there's panels that are about 10 feet high or 10 feet wide and about 4 to 5 feet high. And the geese, when they get on land, they typically just kind of group in a group just like that. And we just slowly close that circle around them. And that's how they're actually captured. The DNR doesn't allow these birds to be, well, the birds are loaded live right into the crates. We have poultry crates rigged up on a trailer. So we try to get that as close as we can to the birds. We'll put them in there alive, and then that's how they're removed from the site. The DNR does not allow them to be relocated. Those adult birds are going to fly right back as soon as they can fly again. And it's just not no place really needs Canada geese in the state of Wisconsin, and they don't want to spread a disease from one site to another. So all the birds have to be euthanized. There's 2 options on what to do with the birds. I think that's my next slide potentially here. There's an option to food pantry the adult birds. Those juvenile birds just don't have enough meat yet on their breast to be processed. So the processor said, don't even bring them to us. But the adults do, and there's that option that is available. For the first 2 roundups that occur in a site, we'd have to test 10% of the adults that we catch with a minimum of 5 birds. And because the meat's going to go into the human food chain. And so, and all sites have to be tested for lead and mercury. And the cost just jumped up to about $250 a sample. I'm contacting multiple different labs around to find out, see if we can get that cheaper, because that gets pretty darn expensive. And then PCBs are required on a case-by-case basis, but I already checked with the DNR toxicologist. No PCB testing is required here, because that's about another $600 for a sample. That gets outrageous. The meat is ground by a processor. We take those birds live to a processor the day after they're captured, typically, or the day of. They process them into burger, and we hold that in our freezer until the test results come back from the lab. And that's usually about July to August when they get those test results back, and we can get that meat to a local pantry if you have one that you want it taken to. I did talk with the DNR toxicologist too. There's another community that's within swimming distance of these geese swimming distance from here, that if they do it and you guys tend to do it, they could do just 10% of that number of adults would be tested. So, I mean, it potentially could be less than 5 per site. If there's 80 adults caught between the 2 sites, there's only 8 then you could split the costs on that. I did find that out from the DNR. Typically, we try to donate the juvenile birds and adults that are not processed from different sites as animal food. That has been complicated here the last 2 to 3 years with the bird flu. We used to take them to the McKenzie Center, which is a DNR-owned facility down in Poinet, that they would feed them to their carnivores. But they have raptors there, and so now they don't want to get bird flu to their eagles and hawks that they have at the site. And so we're just always constantly trying to look for different venues to use the birds so they're not just disposed of. And we haven't been able to do that the last couple of years. Well, I'm going to try again this year to see if we can get, but last year we've had to landfill the birds that the juvenile birds for sure. So next, just a little bit of summary here, and I'll wrap this up here. We require at least 35 to 40 birds at a site for us to come and do a roundup. The way this typically works is if I have a contact with one person at the site, I'll send out an email to them with our cost. There's a DNR permit you have to complete and to find out if you have enough birds. That's usually in mid-July or mid-May. Usually by then, all those birds have hatched where they're going to hatch and they start to gravitate to the park. So you have a pretty good idea by Memorial Day if you're going to need a roundup. So I kind of have a deadline of the 1st through the 5th of letting me know. On average, we'll catch between 60 and 7 geese at a typical site. We do 20 to 30 of these every year in this short little window from basically Clark County all the way down to Kenosha. So it's a pretty intense thing. I'll call, get you on the schedule. And then the way it works is that the day before you're scheduled, I give them a call again just to see if you still have the birds around and you still want us to come. If you say, nope, they dispersed, we're not coming, and it doesn't cost anything to do it. But if you say, you want us to come, we'd have to get paid when we show up the next day to catch them. We need written permission from landowners with the city entity. We can put one agreement in all city-owned parks on that. But if there's private properties that have problems with geese, and that's where they are the day that we show up, we can't trespass to go catch the geese. But if they've given us written permission to do so, we'll gladly catch the geese as long as we have written permission. I know there's a lot of private beaches along the road here that we see geese frequently in the spring. I do a lot of the cormorant work up here, so we're up here from May through early June all the time. I've constantly seen a lot of geese here. Didn't seem as bad last year as it did 2 years ago. I think there was a lot more geese, just what I noticed there a couple of years ago. So we can catch them anywhere we have written permission to do so. And we rely on an entity from the city or the village here to kind of find the birds before we get here and then guide us to them. And we'll put our boats in, kayaks in, everything we need to push them up on land. It does take a permit issued by the DNR, which we don't wait. We wait until the first week of June when we know we're going to do it before we even apply for that. And they're really good about getting these permits out. We had a flat fee of $3,500 for sites more in the southern part of the state. Our office is based out of Waupun. And so this is kind of an outlier for us. And we know that there's potentially a lot of birds up in this neck of the woods. So I think a price of, I think I mentioned previously is going to be about $4,000 for us to come up this direction, because it does take about 8 of our staff that we typically bring. And so we just get reimbursed for our time and cost of all the labor, travel, euthanizing the birds, the whole shebang. We've been doing this since 1999, and we've been over at least 110 different places all across the state. So we're commonly doing this all over. I've been to probably 4 different spots in Door County alone. We're super discreet, and when we do this, we try to do this very early in the morning, just so it's not too hot and there's not as many people around to potentially disrupt. We don't want people on beaches, in the middle of the day trying to keep geese. So that'll keep the geese away anyway. So we keep that pretty low key on what we're doing. We're kind of in and out very quickly, usually too. I think the next slide. So how effective is the roundup removal? Well, it provides immediate relief. Those birds are here one day, boom, they're gone, and all those pounds of feces is gone. Birds have wings. They'll move around here by the time they can fly, usually in July and toward July into August. So they might start shifting around. But what a roundup and removal does, it gets those birds that keep coming back to the same area that have been nesting here for year after year, and those birds are gone and they're never coming back. So it kind of keeps the population down for a kind of an extended time. We come to a site and we'll do a roundup or two, but then we're probably not back for anywhere from 3 to 7 years at least before we need to come back. It all kind of depends on the site. Sometimes if it's a river situation, those folks have a lot of issues trying to get them, the population down. But just on average, it's about a 5-year between roundups. And once you get those population down, they're not all competing to be in the best spots and for that good grass. Those non-lethal things tend to work on low numbers of geese compared to high numbers of geese. And then this is kind of where those molt migrant issue comes in. Doing roundups in consecutive years kind of can help more of these southern parts of the state here than here so much, but those birds don't breed until they're 3 years old. And so they'll come up this direction, sometimes further north, but if you do it 2 years in a row, sometimes you get those birds that are 1 and 2. The first year you get them, and then they'll come back, you'll get them the second year. And then it tends to keep it down pretty good. You have fewer local birds, you're gonna have less migrant birds too in the fall too that cause problems. I think this is 2 more slides here, we're about done. It's good to use a variety of different tactics in dealing with geese, do the habitat modifications, fence them out, harass them with different methods, try repellents in the certain spots, egg oiling, and then remove as needed. Consider the timing of your actions. Some of these migrant birds, they don't have an attachment to the site. They can be easily harassed and pushed out of an area, whereas these local birds, their anchor's thrown out here pretty good. Sometimes it's hard to get those to move on. And then when they're molting, you can harass them all they want. All they're going to do is swim out in the lake and then come right back because they can't get away, essentially. Get public involvement, make it a decision that's done annually to whether to round up and remove the geese, just because people want to have their voice heard. And then be proactive. If you have geese, I think we talked with Ephraim for a number of years here back and forth. You're probably gonna have geese problems for a while. They just like it here. It's a good habitat for them. And don't end up in my slideshow is what I'm kind of warning you. So I think that's about the last slide. Oh, there is a grant that's available. It's based, it's from the DNR and it's based on population density. I don't have anything to do with it, but that grant is usually available in October of the December first deadline. You can inquire with the DNR if you meet that criteria. Multiple places that we go actually get this grant program where it's a cost share thing. Next slide. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk to about today, just to have this a venue to know the options of managing geese.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Questions will go around the board. And Carly, do you have questions of Mike? Okay, shoot.
So you mentioned that there is another municipality that's interested in pursuing this potentially. Is that correct? I mean, you probably can't. I don't know if you can say anything more
There's
than
a
that.
Federal Privacy Act that
Yeah.
we're not really disclosed a lot of things that we work. But yeah, there's one very close.
Okay, because I guess my question would be is if there's a chance to partner with them to either share the costs, share the testing costs, that might be something that would be interesting for us to know if there's a way for us to find that out.
Yep.
I don't recognize privacy thing. Were you a part of, the Gibraltar Roundup that I think happened relatively recently in the last few years?
But that's for that federal privacy thing.
Okay. I guess what I'm trying to find out is, it sounds like the results last. They're better if there's multiple. Just trying to understand if, thinking about that person. Okay, so then next question. So for the grant, it sounds like we would have to go for it after we've already paid for it. At this point.
Wouldn't even be eligible till October. Assign it in January. So it's already too late for this.
Sure. My question, I guess, is more towards Brent, unfortunately, to put you on the hot seat, but have we received any communications from anyone?
I didn't tabulate anything. But I do know after public conversation, the board, 2 months ago, when we discussed this after recommendations from physical facilities in the marina, the board discussed and set a date for this meeting. There were a few parties that reached out in support.
In support. Okay. And I guess, again, back to you, with the kind of private properties along the water, is it up to us to reach out to them and make sure that they get the information so we can get permission? And is there guidance to make sure that we're asking it all correctly and getting the correct permits?
Right, and I have an example permission form
Okay.
that if you want to just reach out to those folks to see if they'd sign off on it. We have those with us on the day of the roundup that we'll knock on a door. Hey, is it okay if we catch these geese? We can sign them up there, but we just can't go and catch them because they're there.
Sure.
That's how that works.
I'll stop for now, but there might be more.
Okay, thank you. Matt, online, do you have any questions of Mike? I see a head shake. He doesn't. Rick, I'll go over to you.
Are you aware of any prohibition? I forget, the DNR has given you exclusive right to do the roundups or the oiling? Is it the roundups?
The roundups. The
Okay.
oiling can be done by
A
anybody.
property owner, they could,
Yes.
a known goose egg, okay.
Mhm.
Do you know how much demand there is, or many people signing up to take the processed goose meat? Is that, are there many takers on that?
Because of the additional costs, we do about 25 roundups a year, anywhere from about 2,500 geese too, on average. Of those 25, only about 25% of them actually do the pantry of the adult geese. Most of them do not
Do the
because of the
euthanizing
additional
only?
costs.
Rick, maybe to add to that, I asked Kim when we were together, I guess earlier this week or last week, to check out with the local food pantry to see if there was interest. And Kim,
I can speak to that. Kim,
Okay.
Kim did the initial reach out, but I spoke with someone. I'll assume the same privacy at this point, but they did both run their own local, but also had ties to, I guess there's a larger network of like a Door County or a regional food pantry. Yeah, definitely would be tremendously interested. They have done work with other like how it works detail wise, I don't know, but there's an opportunity for salmon and then also for venison from whitetail deer. And that product has moved very well historically in Door County. So they definitely would be interested in having that conversation if we continue down this path.
okay, thanks. Rick, go ahead.
Do you have any advice for property owners on where specifically you can look for eggs? And I mean, can they call you for resources as what they're looking for and where particularly to look on the properties?
Peninsulas and islands are the ideal spot where geese like to nest, or like a muskrat house on a marshy area. I don't foresee much for any right along the shoreline here. It's probably any kind of water source that's kind of back off the main lake that they're probably nesting on. And, you know, I think the DNR probably owns that island there right out from the kind of the beachfront peninsula. Since that's a park, I don't know if you can oil that. You'd have to have their permission to do that. But there could be anywhere along here there where it juts out and it's close to water, potentially might have a nest, but it's probably the island. That's where they're coming from.
Thank you.
Sure.
Tim?
Yeah, one question regarding the DNR. We're talking with you and we're, getting things set up with Fish and Wildlife, was it?
I'm part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
I'm sorry, Department of Agriculture. Will the Village of Ephraim have to contact the DNR and go through a permit process also?
It all funnels through me essentially, because I have to sign off on it before the DNR will sign off on it. And then, the DNR only allows us to do it. So I'm kind of the one-stop shop.
Okay, we don't have to contact the DNR in other
No,
words.
but I notify the DNR biologists that we're
that's-
doing it and knowing they keep it discreet, because they come and catch birds for banding purposes and we don't want them to go to a spot where we're catching the birds.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was it.
The only questions I have relative to dates, if we decide to move forward, we have Fair Ball, our annual festival, and that is June
21st this year.
June 21st.
Okay,
So if we were to move forward, this would happen before,
we could accommodate
oh, the
that.
20th?
We
Okay,
could work around any kind of dates like that.
okay.
You-
And is that a Saturday, this 21st? What day of the week is that? Saturday, a Saturday. So, yeah, just so we could be all done and clear by Fair Ball,
Mhm.
so that wouldn't be a problem?
Mhm.
Okay,
We'll start the 15th of June, and some of these birds in like Kenosha County and Walworth County are well into that molting. It's kind of less as you go up a little bit farther north, but if you have something you need, we can come up that right before it happens, so to kind of get the geese out of here.
okay,
And the time frame for us to know, I'll send out the email probably around May 15th. I have a June 1st deadline, and I'll get you on the schedule, and it's going to be probably between the 15th and the end of June, and then I'll call you the day before. So that's kind of our time frame.
of course, we're just talking about is we'd like to have it before the 21st.
We could do that.
Okay,
We'll-
the 20th.
Yep. We'll try to schedule before that date.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Actually,
Go
just a clarification. You mentioned May 1st to 5th as a deadline for a count of the birds.
Usually about June 1st, I need a
June
count.
1st,
Yep.
excuse me.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
Okay.
And I'll need to kind of know, because our trailers only hold so many birds, so we kind of need to make sure can accommodate that. But yep, by then you have a pretty good feel for what it is.
How about a decision on whether or not we're pursuing the food pantry or not?
We could almost do that the day before, but our processors only open on certain days, so we kind of have to know that maybe a week ahead of time would be ideal. Yep. But I've had people said they wanted a food pantry room, and then they didn't catch near as many geese as what they thought they were going to have, and they decided not to food pantry because of the cost. And it does, we do have to take the samples of burger right from the processor, right to the labs. So sometimes if there's only, 40 adults or so, there's not that much burger left over to donate after you take it to the lab for testing, because sometimes it comes, we tell them 1 pound packages, but sometimes it's 2, and that's maybe multiple birds in there, and that's got to go to the lab. So it's not even available to be donated essentially. And then if you you do this the first 2 years in a row, and the other sites already did a year of testing, so 1 more year, and then there's 2 calendar years where no testing would be required to food pantry the birds. So that's just kind of how the DNR protocol works.
Okay. Another question I have of Justin. Do you have an idea how many geese are around our bay in Ephraim in the summer? I mean, it's north of 100, I assume, just. Yeah,
Early in the morning, I can be down here and go out for 4, on the weekend, and there's probably 30 or 40 on the strolling around the shorefront and out in the water. So I mean, there's enough.
okay. So, since this is a public meeting, I would first maybe start with the people that are here. Do you have any questions of Mike or the board about this? Okay, hearing none. Anyone online, if they have a question or like to make a comment? Oh, go ahead, Dennis. You have to come on up and introduce yourself. We know who you are, but the people online.
Dennis Jewell, just an Ephraim resident. I just say I'd really like to see the geese go away. It'd be really good.
Thank you, Dennis. Going back to online, would anybody online like to provide an opinion or ask a question? Okay, seeing none. Oh, go ahead.
Justin, this is over to you again. Do you how much would you say time-wise you spend throughout the season cleaning up after the geese? I mean, on average, you're doing it daily, right?
We do the sidewalks every day.
Mhm.
So we just figure it's an hour a day, 7 days a week from whenever they show up till, I mean, it's at all up until basically when Wilson's closes, it's kind of, don't control it every day, but then there's at least twice a week to clean the lawns off. I mean, that's one guy, 2 hours right there. I mean, I couldn't give you an exact
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
A lot of man hours to do it to keep the shorefront looking clean.
And the harbor master has his routine as well.
Yeah, the marina staff spend part of every day doing it as well.
Any other questions or comments by the board? Matt? Good? Okay. Well, thank you, Mike, for making the presentation. Now we have an action item, our next item on our agenda. So thank you very much for coming up and making the presentation. Okay, now we'll go on to 8B, discussion and consideration regarding implementation of Canada Goose damage management for 2026. Brent, what are we looking for the resolution here?
Yeah. Well, Mike stepped away from the lectern, but he's still here. So
Yes.
just to make sure we've got our dates, but I think we've got some time to make a go, no go decision. It sounds like, I don't know if we want to continue, if we're ready to make a decision, that's great. But we've got some time to give a no go, and possibly also get some information possibly from our neighbors to see where that's going outside of the public realm, I guess, respecting that as well. Again, it's our relationships are different than his legal. So, we would have to respect that if they're not public yet or are not pursuing. But that might be valuable too, relative how long ago they did it. Did they, can you tell us if they donated to a food pantry? Whoever they were?
Since it's an open public meeting, I kind of have more restrictions on me, but what I can do is talk to that entity to see if they'd be willing to talk to you.
Okay.
And if they get that okay, then I can certainly have them go talk to you directly. That would clear all that stuff. I just don't want to be
Right.
I have restrictions on that.
Sure.
We get sued all the time. The other site did do food pantry.
Okay.
So there is 1 year of already testing. If it happens another year, then you're good for 2 calendar years. So.
Okay.
So
Mike, in regard to costs, you mentioned we could potentially save money with the amount of birds we'd have to test. But is there any savings if 2 municipalities went like the same day? Is there any savings in the roundup itself?
that's a question I'm gonna run by my supervisor
Okay.
tomorrow, but
Okay.
I think so. I mean, it's so close. So
Okay,
we'll try to accommodate that as much as we
Okay.
can. But just as when I asked him initially, he just said the same way we charge the other folks.
Okay.
So if it's both go for sure, I think we can accommodate that for both entities.
but if it's us alone, it's the $4,000 is an upset number, even if you had 200 birds out here?
Yeah.
Okay,
With the birds we catch in Door County are their highest numbers at some of the spots of this we do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're aware that there's a lot of birds here.
Ephraim's a very attractive place.
Oh, it's nice here. For sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Well, Brent, maybe we could kind of just hold the board, because I hate to just kick it down kick it down the road if the board is opposed to this. Maybe try to get an idea if this is something that the board is interested in.
Yeah, I would say that'd be a great next step, is if there's consensus to continue, and I can keep working with Mike and hopefully get some information from our neighbors, continue to work out some questions based on the discussion I had with that representative of the food pantry.
Mhm.
There were some interesting irons in the fire there as well that could shed some light on the whole process without sharing too much. But yeah, if it didn't have legs, then it's not worth taking it farther. But if it does, then I would say, yeah, whether it's probably a month from now. What was the May date? Because we meet the second Tuesday of every month. So the second week of May, does that still meet your?
I was just going to suggest that if you can meet in May and kind of have an idea, if Justin can maybe have some rough numbers and you talk to the other community, then I think you'd probably have a much more informed decision whether
Okay.
you want to do it or not. And trust me, I go through here all the time. We go to Rock Island and all that a lot in that time frame, and we're looking.
And as far as the number of sites where you try to corral, is that based on your opinion when you get up here, or are you leaning on local information? There's, how many separate groups, where are they typically congregating? How, are you trying to push them, 1,000 feet, or you try to only push them a few hundred feet to where you find a beach site?
The birds dictate where we catch them.
Okay.
I would predict at least probably 3 different captures here
Okay.
based on the group sizes. Just seeing them, in the spring here too, and we'll push them maybe a couple hundred yards at the most.
Okay.
But we need to have permission where we catch them. That's the key.
Mhm.
And somewhere with like a beach access, not
Beach,
rocky,
boat,
not, yeah,
The boat
okay.
launch, we can push them. We push them on boat launches a lot. Sometimes that's pretty feasible.
So again, I would say also with that, if we've got some time to make that decision with the consensus to continue, we could start that legwork, get the, boilerplate from you as far as what that agreement would look like, and start reaching out, to the neighborhood and see who's interested, and, maybe who has a site that would be conducive to, that
Collection
corral.
point.
Yeah.
Mhm. Generally speaking, limit-wise, are we talking about on the south end of the village? I don't know how familiar you are, but Ephraim Creek, which is right when you get down the hill, you go over the little bridge, that's Ephraim Creek, and then all the way around to Anderson Dock, where our warehouse, graffiti painted warehouse is.
Yeah,
Is-
that's exactly where I thought
Okay,
what the captured would happen.
because that
and where
gets a
we
lot of
see-
our public properties.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're usually scattered all around from basically soon as the golf course is over. As soon as you come down, you start seeing them there. So.
Okay.
And the trick is maybe in the time frame would be better to do it mid-June instead of late June here.
Right.
Just because of the traffic that's going to be in late June versus that mid-June
Right.
timeframe. And because our trailer is going to have to get as close as we can. There's not a lot of space on the south side here too, off the road. We got to do it safely. So.
To get a consensus of the interest in doing this roundup, I'll just go down the line. Rick?
I think we should proceed.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Carly.
I did want to say that this isn't an official statement from CPC, but we have had many discussions about the goose problem. We've tried a lot of the different mitigation suggestions that you've had that are just not permanent. So I know that as a committee, we do support that. Green Tier, we haven't had as in-depth of a conversation about it, but I know that, not putting chemicals, not having E. coli in the water would be something that would be more in line with how we would approach things. Me personally, I think we should definitely pursue if there is interest in the food pantry, but that's all to say. I think we should pursue it.
Okay, thank you. And Matt, how do you feel?
I feel we should proceed with this.
Okay, and I agree with those 4. So we have a consensus, we're all in agreement to continue to move this forward. And it sounds like our May meeting will be the meeting where we actually pull the string.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mike, for coming up again. Appreciate your presentation. Okay. Let's move on to HC, discussion and consideration regarding Door County Emergency Communication Tower Project, draft intergovernmental agreement and easement. Brent?
Yeah, so obviously the emergency radio tower discussion's been kicked around at CPC a number of times. We've been before the board. Early conversations were predominantly about the design location of the tower itself. Last month, they had fairly quickly before the meeting draft intergovernmental agreement and then easement language. It was decided at that meeting that let's forward these draft documents onto our attorney for review. That was done. I sent him those documents in addition to a couple comments I received from Tim. So rather than just include the email we received from our attorney, I framed this in the form of a letter that I would propose sending to the county to give them an opportunity to review and get back to us before we proceed farther with the conversation. So with that, these are the comments made by attorney and Tim, and our attorney did agree with the comments made by Tim. But a couple, the nuts and bolts as far as, some of the terminology and terms for the lease itself. And then the big one that Matt, our attorney, addressed was a conversation or a comment that has been made on some level was just the use of easement as opposed to a lease, and no exchange of, I guess, monies for the use, where the village would benefit from that. So again, I won't try to paraphrase, it's all here within the document, but that's one of the cruxes of his questions and concerns. He's handled several of these elsewhere, including with the company doing this work for the county. And typically, in his opinion, it's done through a lease, not through an easement. So with that, I would say if we agree with the concept of putting this forward to the county, I just ask if there's any questions, things to add, things to change, and we certainly can make those before we send it their way.
Anyone have a comment or question about the letter that's here?
No.
I do.
Go ahead, Matt.
So after reading this, two things. One, I know that when they were here the last time, they talked about the road going back to location 2 or 1. I can't remember what it was. There's nothing in this contract or this agreement that states who's going to take care of that and maintain that road to wherever it is. And then the second thing I have an issue with is, so we're giving away the farm to put up a tower, which is Ephraim's taxpayers' money, and we're getting nothing in return.
Yeah, that's one of the comments that Matt, the attorney, had, Matt, and that's that larger paragraph that he's looking into that. He's asking that question, and we'll see what they come back with. But he felt the same way. There should be a monthly stipend for that tower being there, because if it's not built by the county, it's going to be a for-profit tower. They're going to hang other equipment on there and charge for it. Anything else, Matt?
Nope.
Okay. Tim?
Yeah, I had one other comment. One of the concerns with the location that we were kind of pushing for, but that would be the south and east corner of the village lot, building a road back that far. There is a snowmobile trail that runs along the east side of that lot, and that's right along the power line, and there are not a lot of trees that would, obviously a snowmobile trail it can go between trees, but there are not a lot of trees there, and there's a cleared area probably for the power line. I'm just wondering if a road could be incorporated along there. And it looks like there's plenty of room on the village side of the property line. That might be worth, just to keep the costs down, it might be a practical use. I don't know if WPS has sort of limitations on how close any other construction can be to their facilities. But that's all.
Then we'll make those modifications. The question that Matt asked relative to the maintenance of that road. And I think we had agreed that we were still going to meet with them on that final site and the location of the road. If we could minimize the tree cutting and the expense to them too, that'd be a positive.
Okay.
Do you want a motion then to make these revisions and then send the letter?
Sure. Would be
Okay.
good.
Who would like to make that motion?
I move that we direct our administrator to send the letter along with any other comments that he gleaned from our conversation onto our village attorney for final draft.
And then will the letter be sent then?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think
Would you
to
want-
to send
okay.
to the county.
Final draft and then send to the
Okay.
county. Thank you.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rick. Any further comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll get that out. 8D, discussion and consideration regarding Dan Smears, 10404 Water Street, Lynx Hot Dog LLC, renewal of the mobile food establishment license. Yeah. How are you? I'm good. Maybe let me ask Brent to introduce this. It doesn't need a lot of introduction.
No, this is a renewal. Dan's been with us for
This will be my third
this would be the
permit.
third
from you
third
guys.
permit. Yeah, so I don't think any real changes are proposed, and per Andrea's report, just pending was it fire inspection, I think. So that was the only additional information to add.
He gets it when he opens, usually the first or second day he's open, so.
So there doesn't have to be any condition on this approval? Okay,
I usually just figure out when the red button opens and usually when I see it there, I pop in and get it taken care of.
okay,
Yeah.
Never had an issue before. So,
Okay.
we're on.
Okay.
May 1st is when I think everything opens, so.
Any questions of Dan?
Don't have any.
No? Matt? No? I'll take a motion then.
I move we approve the application for mobile food establishment as presented by Dan Smers for the 2026 season.
Thank you. In a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Carly? Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thanks, Dan. 8E, update regarding North Path project. And I can take this one. We are getting close. We cut down trees last week, and as a clarification, I think there were 12. The clarification I wanted to make is, I heard people saying you cut down all those beautiful maples. There was one maple tree. The rest were all cottonwood that were falling apart. So we didn't cut down, we cut down one maple tree, that's true. The rest were all cottonwood. And a discussion we've had previously that still pertains is when the path is done, we intend to go back in there and look at where we have appropriate places to plant trees again. And then we'll come in front of the board with a plan to plant the trees. So we do intend on replacing some of those trees, maybe not in the exact location. But if anybody has any question, I think the contractor is April 15th is the target date.
Yep, they're shooting for the second or third week of April, weather permitting. We were in really good shape relative to that until Justin's forecast occurred.
We'll see.
But no, as we thought all along, this really wasn't a long schedule from a construction window. So they're looking to be in here, the second or third week of April and be complete by Memorial Weekend.
Great. Any questions regarding the North Path? Okey doke. Then let's move on to 8F. Discussion and consideration regarding Moravia Point Landscaping Project. And there's an exhibit in your packet. And I'll start with Matt. Matt, did you want to make any comments?
So I said that I was going to come back with at least 5 varieties. We did not have a physical person able to attend meetings who were unable to hold the last PFU meeting. And so this is back in your packet because this was a plan that was unanimously submitted to the board by PFU. And it was our belief that this was a simple way to get this project moving. If you look at the scope of work, the fescue / wildflowers, all of that should grow high enough to conceal the railing. That was a concern.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Comments?
I guess based
Carly?
on our last conversation, I know that we had kind of said to take the rail and the wall out of the equation. So I would just want to make sure that, I mean, these are the exact same things that have been presented before. So I would want to make sure that those things are, if we really don't want PFU to pursue those things at this time, that's very clear that that's not something that we're wanting them to pursue. So just making sure the scope is very clear. I don't remember exactly the discussion around the conduit, but is that something that is out of scope as well?
I think we took everything,
the
the wall,
wall.
the guardrail, and that out of the scope, and the conduits
Okay.
fastened to the wall, I believe.
Okay. And then I guess the other thing that I remember from the last conversation that we had about this is, as far as next steps are concerned, is also consulting kind of some of the local experts for this plan. And they would also potentially have some of the suggestions around plantings as well.
Rick, I'll give you a shot.
I guess I'm going to reiterate what I said, I guess the last couple meetings, is that my concern is that what we're engaging in here is letting the perfect become the enemy of the good. And I think that the Physical Facilities Committee had it mostly right in that as an interim plan, and I think that, I think that was emphasized, maybe not, to do this in a simple way, see what we have, and then anybody else's vision, however complex, however simple, can still happen. As you can tell from the debate, there are certain things within the physical facilities proposal that we got hung up on, such as the method of removing stumps, such as the dimension stone, maybe the planting of dwarf pines, the height of plantings with the guardrail, et cetera. I think we discussed all of those things. My suggestion is that we simplify this even more. I'm concerned, as I'm sure everybody else is here, that what we're going to wind up with if we continue to debate more elaborate plans and we can't do anything until we have an elaborate plan, is that what we're going to wind up with is a bunch of stumps there for fear ball. That's my concern. I think that that's the direction this is headed. So I would suggest that we simplify this even more and move it along. And in keeping with that, I'd like to bring a motion for the board to consider with your permission, Kent.
Go ahead.
I propose that this board direct the village administrator to obtain the service of a contractor or contractors to perform the following. 1, render an opinion as to the best option as to stump removal, and then proceed with the work so suggested. Next, that contractor or another contractor clear and prepare the ground on Moravia Point for planting. Burning brush, clearing brush, whatever the method that is proposed, that's what they do. Grading it, putting dirt down. Next, that contractor or volunteers from the community, our village staff, spread a mix of grass and wildflower seed at Moravia Point on the prepared ground. Next, and this number's up for debate, obviously, but that the village administrator is authorized to spend up to $15,000 for the items described thus. Finally, that the funds be taken from the room tax fund or Pratt funds.
Thank you. To get discussion going, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Well, I had a double second here. Good.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with, we've heard Matt speak, we've heard Rick speak. Carly spoke a little. Tim, your turn.
Okay. I like the sound of that motion. You didn't mention anything about any trees or bushes, strictly planting grasses.
By design, that is correct. I'm talking about so that my point here is that I'm trying to eliminate those things that we're getting hung up on. And if we, I think, proceed with an elaborate plan that's going to be another board meeting that we're going to debate. Maybe someone doesn't like this planting or that planting. At least with this, what we will have hopefully by Fear Ball is cleared ground, prepared ground, seed put down, and it's green with wildflowers growing. And at that point, in my opinion, we as a village, as a board, can look at that and say, all right, this is good. Or what is much more likely, I think, you know, what we need is some strategic plantings here and there. This motion, this simplicity, I think, allows and I mean, this is Ephraim, and this is all to the good. Everybody's got strong opinions about the way things should look, and that's a great thing. That's why we have the village we do. But let's proceed simply. Get this part of it done, get the seed down, have the wildflowers and the grass growing up, and then we can all decide what needs to happen to hide the guardrail or whatever. Otherwise, I fear that if we get into the more elaborate plans, we're going to have nothing by June. So at least let's proceed with those things that every single vision for Moravia Point would entail. Every single vision that you'll hear from Moravia Point includes everything that's in this motion. And nothing, and then it goes into the variables. So let's start with this. And Tim, a couple meetings ago, I think you said something that was absolutely correct. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. This process allows that to happen. And then we don't have stumps there sitting there for Fear Ball, which is probably where we are headed.
Thank you. Carly, feelings?
Did Tim, based on your face, did you have anything else that you wanted to say?
Well, I was just kind of moving around, but go ahead, Tim. You had the floor.
Okay. I didn't hear any conflict or argument regarding the trees or the bushes. Am I mistaken? If that was conflict, I think we really, I stand corrected, but the trees and bushes that were going to, help to screen the wall and the guardrail sounded like it was consensus that we would go forward with that too.
I guess I have a different recollection on that.
Okay.
I didn't think that was, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm just going with the things that I know everybody agrees with.
And yeah, everything that you mentioned, I think is good. Don't get me wrong. Something else we talked about either last meeting or meeting before is once we get a little ways along, it's pretty easy to say, well, we'll deal with this later. It's easy to delay. It's easy to put off. It's easy to stop working on it. Lord knows we beat these things to death, and then we're all tired of it, when something finally gets done. But holding on to what energy we have, would there be consensus to add trees and the trees and bushes that were already, in a list that I think Ann Hutchins had provided? I think that's where it came from. Is there a conflict with?
Well, what in my mind we never had is any type of an idea of whether or not there's going to be a few bunches or a 400-foot long strip. And that was a concern I have, was what would it look like? It'd be another 400-foot long thing of bushes. So
I didn't think there was an actual proposal in front of the board with specific plantings and specific locations.
Well, there was somewhat with the dwarf spruce showing in this.
And my motion doesn't include that or the dimension stones. So, and that was something else that we got hung up on that I think that we can debate later. I mean, I think that, knowing everybody on the board, I think that we're all going to be very interested upon seeing how it looks, at least at the stage that I've mentioned here. And this is Ephraim, we're going to have plenty of people saying, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that. So I'm very confident that we'll be able to come back after the wildflowers come up and the grass comes up to say, hey, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. But I just don't recall there being a specific proposal outside of, yes, those dwarf,
Right.
which I say we don't do, or the dimension stone.
Mhm.
We even keep it simpler than that, just to move it forward. And if we want to have another discussion next month, that's fine, but at least we've approved this right now, which we haven't been able to do so far. So let's approve this right now. And we can talk about that next month or the month after that. I'm confident that we'll be able to come to some sort of decision as to more elaborate plans for Moravia Point.
Okay. One thing I did hear from Fred Breidenhagen's presentation last month, he felt the dimension stone was important to get in early on. Am I mistaken about that?
He
Because
did,
if I
but
am,
then
it's not a
we
problem.
had discussion too about size.
Yeah, there was.
And I think there's a lot more
Okay,
discussion
then-
about size.
Okay, then I get that. I get that.
I guess to add on to that, a question would be just making sure that we're considering erosion in the meantime, because I think that was
Mhm.
part of the point of
Oh, that's
having
stump
the
thing.
dimensional stones and the question around the stump removal. So I guess if as this motion stands, we're passing it on to Brent at this point. So that would have to be something that is a part of the conversation that you have with whatever contractors you
Mhm.
bring in. I
Part of the
guess.
motion is that he gets the opinion
Right.
as to the correct way and then proceeds.
Yes, I would agree with making sure it's done correctly and erosion is a part of that conversation. I will be surprised that 15,000 is going to cover it, but
Well, that's a good question. Maybe if we should bump that up. I'm open to that too, to modify the motion with a higher number. I was just basing that off of what I think we're being charged for the trees at the North Path project, and kind of without sitting there counting the stumps, but I'm thinking there's 20 to 30 maybe. And so if, based on what we're being charged, that's probably about $6,000 to $7,000. If it's a similar charge. And I also think I saw from the Physical Facilities Committee, $2,100. Is that correct, Matt, for the seed? Is that the correct number?
Yes.
Okay, so that's up to 8. So I don't know if we want to do a little bit more than 15. I'm okay with that, but I
If
thought
we had
15 would
30
cover it.
stump, what are we paying for stumps up north now that I think about this? Is it
And granted, that's flat ground.
ground?
It was $160-ish per stump.
Oh, that's all. Okay, I thought it was more.
And those are pretty big stumps on the north end.
So even if we said this, let's just say 300, we had 30 stumps, we're still south of 10,000. We have to do some grading and possibly a
And
little
dirt.
fill. And that's not gonna be done by us being people in this room. And then we have to, and then do the seeding and so forth. 15 might be tight. Would we feel comfortable giving Brent the authority to go up to 20? To move this along? Because I agree, the one thing I agree with is I want it green for Fearball. And I like the interim step. We still then have all the time we need to, what do we want to do to finish? It might be finished, but if it's not hard to add to this because we're not destroying anything. Maybe a little seed would be all.
I think green is possible. You know, I don't have a green thumb, generally speaking, but I would say with a lot of the wildflowers and things from my mind, I believe that takes at least a season or two
Oh, it
to
does.
actually see
Yeah,
color from that.
it's-
So I wouldn't expect a bouquet of color in
No.
there by any means.
But green would be a nice start
Yeah.
with the grass. Justin, I see you moseyed up to the lectern.
I did, just to give you so the stumps on the north end are not gonna be the same as the stumps here.
Right.
Because they cannot get a stump grinder up there. This is gonna be a special piece of machinery that is gonna have to come in and probably on a high hoe or something on that line to be able to grind those off. They
Mhm.
can't get a skid steer won't be able to sit up there with a grinder or the grinder
Right.
machine. So it's gonna be a special piece of equipment.
Right.
And just, we talk about flowers, which is good, or the grass, which I agree, it should be green for Fearball. When we start considering the rest of it, the trees and stuff, we just need to consider the amount of salt that goes in that piece of property.
I know.
It's everything off the highway, it's everything off Moravia, everything off the sidewalk that goes on that piece of property. So just, yeah, think about that as we move forward. I'm all for the grass thing and let's get it done.
Right.
So.
Thank you. Well, and you and I talked also that we have to consider on the dimensional stone. How does that impact plowing that sidewalk? Because we keep that sidewalk plowed.
Yeah, and the sidewalk is used almost every day by
In the
somebody
winter.
walking and it needs to be a straight edge because the blower goes right tight to the edge now.
Yeah.
And, we have all our electrical buried in there for the street lights and whatever else is in that piece of property. Dimensional stone might be a little bit of an issue because we're gonna have to dig into the side of the hill there to set it. We may compromise some of the stuff we have buried in there already, so it's just all stuff to consider as we move forward. But the erosion part, we haven't, I can't remember anything ever washing off of there yet.
Yeah.
So we have that, and I don't know if removing the stumps is gonna cause that or not, but I guess we have to find out.
Right. Do you have an opinion on, given your comment on the equipment, should we be moving our upset from 15 to 20?
I probably would, because I just don't think it's, I don't think it'll be cheap to get somebody in here with a high hole. I
Right.
mean, I think that, that may have to come out of Green Bay. I don't know anybody that has that type of piece of equipment in Door County. I mean, there could be, but I don't know of anybody. So, that might be a special contractor that we have to locate that does that.
Okay.
We can talk to our resident tree expert that did the tree work on the north end, but he went to Florida now, so we'll have to wait a little
Okay.
bit till he's back. But he may have a lead that somebody that does that specifically. So,
Okay. Thank you, Justin.
yep.
Would you entertain modifying your motion to change the $15,000 to $20,000?
Yes, let's do it.
And then a second? Tim, I think you were one of the seconds.
I'm not going
Also-
to, no.
Okay. So we have a, Matt, okay, I heard 2 seconds coming up, but maybe I misheard.
I said, I'm not going to second it now.
Right.
You heard the word second. but
Okay,
Matt seconded.
Matt seconded, okay. Why don't I go down through the group and to vote on this motion? I'll start with you, Carly.
Actually ask him, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, to just read it back and make sure that we're hearing it all in.
Mhm.
I should talk slower.
Brandon moved and seconded to propose to direct the administrator to obtain the services of one, render opinion on stump removal and proceed with that recommendation. 2, to contact or obtain a contractor to clear and prepare the area for planting. 3, contractor to spread grass and wildflower seed. 4, the village administrator would be authorized to spend $20,000. And 5, funds should be taken from room tax or pot. I get the gist of that.
It sounds like it. Carly, start with you.
I mean, yes, I guess at
Aye,
this point.
okay. Tim?
No.
Okay. Rick?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Ken? Aye. Okay, motion carries. Number 9, physical facilities. Discussion and consideration regarding proposal for the brush dump expansion on German Road.
So this is on here. We've been trying to make the German road dump more functional without spending any money. We've been trying to get by with exchanging things, and due to how much is being deposited out there on a regular basis, this is on there because we need to get this operating properly before the season starts. And Justin has written a letter, and he is there also in front of you to answer any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Justin, additional comments?
No, well, yes and no. So basically, it's been just about a year since we opened the dump up there to the brush and yard waste collection, which it worked fairly well until August 9th. And then after that, it kind of fell apart and we've used maybe contractors as we could to get in there with high hose and stuff and push it up and all that. Come the first snowfall, we made the decision, Brent and I had a conversation, I think we just need to close the dump because we weren't going to maintain it. You know, the road, you know, running our equipment out there on the rough road wouldn't go so well. So we just decided to close the dump and then knowing how much room there isn't anymore out there, it just behooves us to keep it closed at this point. Fred Bridenhagen went out there and made some markings, you know, how wide it should be and stuff. And I went out and looked at it, went out there with the person that I got the quote from, said he's going to reuse as much of the brush that's there to build the berm basically for us, which that's kind of the proposed area there. It's not obviously to scale, but it drastically improves how much area we have. You know, the things we need to consider as we move forward, if we do this, is we can push the brush up the best we can. You know, we could probably get a contractor in there with a high hoe or a dozer or whatever to push it up more. Burning is out of the question out there. That is not going to happen out there. You know, the DNR has some pretty strict regulations and burning that much of brush. And I don't think we want to get involved in that end of it. And then it goes down the line of, do we chip it out there and leave it out there, mulch it up like we do? With that, if we did that, you know, right now we collect all the chips by us. That's the only thing that's left by us at the maintenance facility. And we are happy to load that to everybody who wants it. But if it goes out there, that goes away at some point. So there's some ongoing costs at some point. Once the dump fills back up, what are we going to do? But with the amount of space that should open up, it should take a little while longer to fill up the dump. So the way I saw there, again, we tried to do the bartering thing, didn't work. So that led us down the line to get a quote to do this, which I spoke to the gentleman who gave me the quote the other day just to make sure that it was all valid. He said, yep. You know, the only thing we'd have to wait for now is the 20 inches of snow that's going to show up maybe this week to melt, and then for Liberty Grove to take the weight restrictions off. Because we can't go down any of those roads right now to get the heavy equipment in there. But, you know, my recommendation would be just approve this and get it on his docket. So once the weight restrictions come off, he can come up and widen this out and we can be open here. Hopefully, I'll say if it works out, first part of May, give or take, depending how much, you know, he has to do.
Questions of the board? Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. Could you show the map again or the plan? Do you plan on using the parking lot that has been used by Marinas and Moorings for boat trailer storage?
No, it's just, that's where the end of it'll be. The mapping just overlaps it there a little bit. We're not going to use that as the current entrance and exit that everybody uses for the brush dump. That will continue.
Okay. Good. You mentioned having berms set up around the edge. Why are you not just moving that yellow triangle right over so that it connects directly with the existing brush dump
There are some pretty
area?
large piles of stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay, but if you're going to be, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you said exactly what I was thinking. If they're going to be creating berms anyway, why not start leveling out some of that waste material that's otherwise making that area unusable?
I mean,
it's more work. It's more machine time.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we have all the dredgings out there too. I mean, we could, you know,
you want something to build up. I don't know if that dredging would be any kind of a base for driving on it. It probably would be all muck.
No, but if you look at the entrance there, a lot of that is the dredge. That road is built on the dredgings, you know. And I mean, there's that potential that we could flatten it out. And
I think that that's the way to go, and that's kind of a, that's not my decision. That's not, that's more of a board thing. But just so there, that area, as we're looking at that yellow triangle rectangle to the left. Right. Yeah. Adjust my eyes. That's a lot of spoils, dredging spoils. It's very rough, unusable terrain right now. This would be a time to make that, put it to use. Otherwise, it's going to remain unusable. It is more machine time, and I would accommodate, I would approve the additional estimated time, and costs to start making use of that property better. But you say we're not going to ever do any brush burning out there. So really, as the brush collects, the only way we're ever going to get rid of it is if we have it chipped.
Haul it out.
Chip it or haul it out. Okay. Do you have any plans on hauling out what's there right now or
Well,
chipping it?
He was gonna use that for berms on the outer edge.
Oh, he was going to use
actually
that
use
brush, that
as
existing
a
brush?
build up to,
I'm, okay,
yeah, to build up the berm along with the soil that's there too.
okay.
Which in some spots is next to none. And then there's some spots where it's.
Yeah, and it's pretty tight bedrock up there. It holds water pretty well.
Yeah.
Well, okay. If that's a use for that, that's great. It becomes a kind of a future expense, an ongoing expense that we're going to have as far as either, and the village isn't going to go up there and chip that stuff. I mean, you guys have a real nice chipper, but it ain't that nice, and there aren't
It ain't
enough
that
of
nice,
it.
and I don't think we have
Yeah.
enough time in the year to.
No,
up
you
there
don't
chipping.
have enough lifetimes to keep that
Though I
maintained.
think they might have did that back in the day.
Well,
Back
before
in
it was
but there
so
was a lot
popular.
less- There was a lot less brush, I think, back then.
Well, yeah, people were more comfortable with it on their property, I guess. At any rate, yeah, moving it over,
To the left.
yeah, get it over to the left. That would be to the east, or to the west,
The
excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah.
the other east. Yeah. And start, I'm a little bit nervous about where you, when I first saw that, okay, where are the boat trailers
No, we
going?
had just put when Kim and I plotted it, we had just put it, put
Yeah,
it on there, knowing
okay.
that it was gonna overlap a little bit.
But
Yeah,
that is about the area. That's
Yeah.
the size. Okay,
roughly,
so, okay, that's what we're looking at. Yeah, moving it over, I think would be if it gets moved over, so it's really part of that already used place.
We've had good experience once we get some brush in a corner, everybody kind of gravitates that way and,
Yeah,
we can keep it far enough away.
set an example.
Yeah,
Yeah, sounds good. And this is, related only because it's this property and we're starting to talk about it more. We talked about it for the cell tower. If we're going to start using it more, I think that, Marinas and Moorings has a lot of junk up there, old boat slips, great big heavy steel things. And I would like the board to think about that. I think, I'm kind of guessing that would be on Marinas and Moorings tab to start cleaning up some of that stuff out there. It's not on the agenda. We're not going to move on it, but I wanted to bring it up. There are 3 boats, one that we use. And, but all 3 of them are on trailers, I believe.
Yeah.
I'd like some clarification on the status of those boats because they, that is not where a boat should be on a
Oh,
year-round.
When you say our boats.
Well,
You mean
I think they're
residents'
they're ours by default.
Nobody's collected them.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
that's easy to get the bottom.
Okay,
we can handle
well,
that.
Yeah. So, okay, back to subject. You know where I stand.
Yep.
Move it over. Don't
Back over.
don't mess with the trailer
Yeah.
parking.
Oh,
Okay.
no, there was no intention ever to mess with the trailer.
But I
parking
would,
at all.
yeah, and I would at least be, I would approve additional funds to, level out that land to the west of that triangle to make that, or said it again, rectangle. Yeah. At least I catch it. Yeah. Kind of a trapezoid. Yeah. To use that area more efficiently.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Rick, any comments on this?
Yeah, I agree with Tim. I think that it should be moved over to the west. And I would also agree if there's extra expenditure, I think that it makes more sense to have it more even with the area that we are currently using.
Carly?
I guess, I mean, I am very much a visual.
Oh, your
person.
mic is on yet.
Touched
There you
it.
go. The double touch.
I said I'm a visual person, so I think I understand where this rectangle is moving. But I guess my question is any of this going to potentially restrict future uses of the boat trailer, or do we think that there's plenty of space, plenty of expansion capabilities with how we're the proposal?
Yeah, if we had to expand the boat trailer parking, we can go to the east more there.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no, and last year, a couple times I was out there and there were several parking stalls yet in the boat trailer parking without a problem. So if there was expansion, we can go to the east.
I would, if we get actually you have, the fire department has the cars
Yep.
out there too, although that's fairly close to the existing road. If Marinas and Moorings gets some of that junk, cleaned up, then you could actually expand
Yeah,
going,
it can
what would
come-
that be, south?
Yeah.
As well, and it would be contiguous.
Matt, did you want to add any more comments?
No, I think everything's been discussed.
Okay, thank you. Then I would ask for a motion, and maybe considering in this motion, you have a proposal for $20,000?
Correct. That's what he had quoted me at this point.
We can't pass the $25,000 threshold, or we'd have to competitively bid the project.
Okay, so we could go up to 24,000 and give a little more room when you talk to the contractor about this additional work that we want done. Somebody like to make that motion?
Do we have an idea of where that money would come from? Is there a budget within PFU?
Justin didn't like that question.
No.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
I think Brent would know more about than I would about that.
Justin clearly had a thought.
I didn't have a thought at all. I just heard.
What a way to delay.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it certainly wasn't planned because
No.
during budget season, we thought we were bartering for this. And it sounded great on paper, but ultimately didn't come to fruition. So I think the only pot then would be room tax.
Room tax.
How big is that pot?
It was,
in
it
the
was in
packet, there is a
Andrea's,
number.
like 1.5, I think, something
Okay.
like this.
1.5 and Pratt is in round numbers 5, so the total pot's about $2 million.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, this wouldn't be Pratt.
No, I don't, this wouldn't
accessible,
qualify
but-
as infrastructure.
Right.
So it'd have to be.
Okay, it's still a big pot.
I guess the other thing I did have, which is not necessarily a part of our agenda, but kind of related to the question that we have, is it's really helpful to see what we have currently in those, but I also know that we've earmarked them many times. So I think that would be helpful for us to see as well, because we keep using room tax and it will eventually be gone, even though we keep
Oh,
making
yeah,
more.
we're government.
So-
We can make it disappear.
But you make a good point.
Yeah.
we make some-
We've talked a lot about using it.
Usually that's all adjusted at the end of the
It's what
year.
we
do.
as we go through. So we'll have an adjustment coming
Yep.
up when the auditor comes next. month.
Correct.
Good. How about a motion?
I move that we proceed with the expansion of the brush area up off the German Road property as discussed, and basing it on the proposal from Peninsula Property with a cost not to exceed $25,000.
24?
Is it 24 or 25?
I mean, it's,
24,999.
yeah.
20, okay, not, a cost not to exceed $24,999.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's approved. Let's move on to wastewater number 10A. Discussion and consideration regarding pursuing, I lost my place, or delaying phase 1, 2026 of the wastewater project. And maybe I'll jump into that one.
Sure.
Okay. I was out of town and Carly was chairing our meeting, but at the last meeting, I think we all recognized that we were in a little bit of a sticker shock, I'll say, of an $11 million project. Brent put together what he calls a fact sheet that is in your package. It's up there right now. And I'm sure you've all read through it, but the long and the short of it is right now, McMahon is looking at a cost estimate of about $11,000. It includes, wouldn't it be nice as 11,000? Room tax.
It would have been 1920, yeah.
$11 million and includes the construction costs, final design, construction management fees, and contingencies for, the upgrades we've talked about. We've had several meetings talking about that. Now, the funding, originally, we broke this down to 2 phases because we're hopeful that each phase would qualify for forgiveness. And the forgiveness would have been on the order of $2 million. After submitting the first phase, we did not rank high enough to be eligible for any forgiveness. So the forgiveness is off the table right now, especially for 2026. What is still out there, though, is the funding through the DNR at a very favorable interest rate. So that is still out there. Where we stand right now, because the lack of principal forgiveness, the pressure to get phase 1 going in 2026 is off. So the board needs to make a decision on whether or not we want to pursue phase 1 in 2026 or delay it. The options of delaying is to simply do both phases at once in 2027, or the possibility of putting the whole project off 3 to 5 years. And then under the things to consider, an $11 million price tag with no principal forgiveness comes as a bit of a shock to many last month. I'll say to probably all of us. Postponing the project will allow the village to work with our auditors and explore our funding options and scenarios and the impact of those. Set additional wastewater capital money aside and slowly increase rates as opposed to doing it in 1 or 2 significant increases. 3, provide our residents with time and an opportunity at a future special meeting of the board to understand the need of the project and the project details. 5, provide our residents and users with time to better prepare for the financial burden they will eventually face. And 5, afford the wastewater committee time to complete the long due overhaul of the REU system prior to the approval of this capital project. On Monday, I met with Karen, with Brad, with Dan, and Brent and myself, and we established 3, I'll call them action groups. This is not a formal thing, but we want to tackle 3 parts of this project. Number 1, I've asked Karen and her wastewater committee, working with Tim and Tony over the next 2 months, to develop a new REU system for presentation to the board. Number 2, I've asked Brad and Dan to work with Tony on what we're calling value engineering. Is the whole $11 million and all the work scope absolutely necessary and needed? Make sure we are working with only needs and not wants. And also look at different ways to save. And Brad has a number of ideas. I would like the engineers and the people that are very attuned to our wastewater treatment plant to have that discussion and come up with a written summary that we can also present to the board on ways we can hopefully reduce the cost of $11 million. And then the third thing I thought we could do is Brent, Andrea, Amber, who's our auditor, and I would work on funding options. So we could look at if we were to push this whole thing back to 27, which almost seems like tomorrow already, how would we pay for it? And then what would we do if we moved it back 3 years and to 5 years? Brent wrote Tony and said, what would be the impact of delaying this project 3 to 5 years? And Tony wrote back and said, the good news is our plant is in pretty good operational condition. We don't have failures out there that we're dealing with. There's some safety issues, railings and so forth that we need to do sooner. We won't want to push that off. And so I've asked those same 3 people to get us a list and a cost estimate. What are those safety issues so that we can budget that? But what I'd like to do is work with Brent and Amber and take a look at how we could start to build up the capital in the next 3 to 5 years. So maybe we'd have $3 or $4 million saved, gradually raising things and not have to have this huge hit in 1 year. I'll open up to questions, but what I think we need to do tonight is the board has approved, not a project, we don't have a bid even. This year is out. We couldn't do it if we wanted to. We are too late coming to the party. And with the capital forgiveness gone, there's really no reason to jump through a whole lot of hoops to do this. So what I think we have to do, at least tonight, is agree that we're going to do nothing in 2026. And instead, we would look at 27 or +3 or +5. And then I would gather these groups together. It'll probably take a couple months for us to do this. So in the summer, then we'd be ready to, I'll call the public hearing, but to make a bigger announcements with the public, present all this to the public, educate the public of this, and take our time a little more. So with that, I'll quit talking and answer any questions. Got it.
Okay, so one, I said this last time and I'll say it again. I never feel like making a rush decision is usually a good idea. So I do appreciate if we have the time to take the time to do it as thoughtfully as possible. To a question, this low interest rate loan, do we know any idea of when that potentially would be? You know, what is the kind of timeline of that? I know that we've been approved for that, but I wasn't sure.
That changes every year.
Okay.
It's 55% to whatever the market rate is. I don't know where they get the market rate. So that'll be available in the future. Now, the money for wastewater treatment projects it's budgeted every 2 years. So it's a 2-year budget. So there's not a 100% guarantee that this would be available in 2 years, but the state has always renewed this because there's no way small municipalities could do this without help. But that's a risk we'll have to talk about. If we did the whole thing in 2026, we'd still be on track to get the low interest loan, and the money would be there in 2026 and 2027.
Okay.
We don't know the future for sure.
Beyond that. Okay. Which I guess I'm saying would be helpful, a part of these kind of suggestions and solutions. And then the other thing is, as the chair of the Green Tier Committee, the idea of we want to propose that the village pursue solar as a separate project. It's always been something that has been going to be considered an additional component of the project, but it's something that if we don't start the project by July 1st, there wouldn't be a chance to qualify for the federal grant that is available. So wanted to share that as an option for the conversation as well.
Okay. Tim, comments?
Well, actually.
Turn on your mic, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Answered one question on the low interest loan program. The principal forgiveness program that ends this year?
No, it'll go in
27?
2027.
Okay.
So if we decided to go after, do the project in 2027, we've got quite a bit of work to do because phase 2 hasn't been designed yet. Tony is going to prepare a submittal, a proposal for us to design phase 2. So if we got the whole thing done, phase 2 designed, we could apply still for 2027. It
Okay.
would have to be this fall though. So once again, the clock's ticking.
Yeah, okay. Right offhand, it doesn't sound particularly, I like the idea of the delay right offhand. Getting the REU program, getting that structure reestablished, I think is going to be primary. And then as long as, you know, Tony said the plant's in pretty good shape, the systems, you know, things, there's nothing that's ready to crumble. There are railings, a few minor things that we have to do. I guess the only, you know, the biggest risk I see is inflation. It's going to cost more, but, you know, in a way that's, you know, that's, it's almost a make-believe additional cost because everybody's making more, right? That's why there's inflation.
Right.
So, you're talking 3 things: the REU reevaluation, needs versus wants,
Right.
and funding options.
Right, right.
Okay. I think that's on track. I like it.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, as to the REU system change, I mean, I think that one thing we need to make sure, because we have this huge project pending, that whatever we do when we change the REU system is that we establish a baseline that it's revenue neutral with what it's producing now, so that we can then make the decision, which I think has to go hand in hand with this delay on increases. And so that's, you know, it's dollar for dollar. I don't know if I'm saying that clearly, but I think that we need to, I guess I wouldn't be so in favor of a delay if we're not also at the same time, and just as importantly, increasing rates slowly, and we come to an understanding and an agreement about that, so that we raise the funds for this and not let this REU system change get in the way of that by, you know, spiting ourselves, you know, that whole thing. We want to make sure that if we make that change, that it doesn't reduce the revenue and then we're back to neutral.
Oh,
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
also be
Yeah.
preparing for future improvements.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So we need to have that conversation.
Right.
And 3 to 5, maybe 10, I don't know. I mean, I don't know a lot, but the few things that I've heard is that we have a really good system. It was built correctly over 40 years ago and is operated at less than 50% capacity at the same time. So it's like a classical car that's never been driven faster than 45 miles an hour. I mean, it's a good system. So I think that the delay makes sense, so long as we're serious about increasing rates and saving money.
Yes.
Perhaps putting it in a trust fund that's not rateable for any other reason, so that we can go to the taxpayer, the users and the taxpayers, say, look, we were responsible here for the next 3 to 5 years, and we're cutting down on what your future rate would otherwise have been.
I agree. And the REU system will be driven by the wastewater committee. So you being a member, sir,
Sorry, I missed the last meeting. I was
You'll
out
be
of town.
watching
I'll
over
be at
that
the
for
rest of them. Yes, yes.
Matt, comments?
Yeah, to add to this conversation beyond what's been said, what are the plans to add monies to the ERF fund so that we can not run into this situation again? Has that been discussed?
No, we have not met with Amber yet. That's certainly going to be part of our discussion, because not only do we have to build this project, but I think you're saying, what do we do 30 years down the road? We need to be building another capital fund. And our goal would be to model that also.
Okay. All right. Then I would echo that. I think that delaying this possibly for the 3 to 5 years so that we can build up a nest egg, so that we're not taxing our taxpayers for something that's not their fault.
Okay. I guess what we need, and Brent, you can help me with this tonight, is a decision to delay phase 1 beyond 2026. Is it as simple as that?
I would agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then we will be coming back That group I mentioned, I don't know if we'll be back. We'll certainly give an update next month. It'll
Yep.
probably take us a couple months to go through all these things, but if we take that pressure off the table, actually, we will be back next month with some other topics on this thing, so we will be back. But we need tonight is a motion to delay phase one beyond 2026.
Is there any thought on the standalone solar?
Well, let's discuss that too. The proposal that had been made, if we would approve a separate solar project, panels that will be independent of the building. Thank you.
I don't even.
Yeah, I know, that's me.
Sure.
I'm balling out myself. The panels will be to the, what direction is that? North
North.
of the building, so they would not be on the building. We have an opportunity, I think, and I'm speaking from memory now, of a project about 300
Yes.
and some thousand
300
dollars.
and the potential forgiveness around 100,
Around 100.
110.
So
Yeah.
we could save $100,000 if we built that now. Now, the question is, I guess in my mind, I'll start with my questions. The question is, that would just sit out there for 3 to 5 years? And then number two, where would the controls and those types of things go before we connect it? Now, I assume we could connect it to the existing plant.
Bruce Nelson, who couldn't be here.
I think he's
Yeah.
actually online.
Is he online?
I saw him
Yeah.
online.
Okay. Bruce, if you want to, I don't have to paraphrase if you want to speak to it.
Yeah, I will comment on that. Thank you for the time. Bruce Nelson, I'm on the Green Tier and also the Wastewater Committee, and also have worked with the solar installation company that supplied the quotation that the McMahon's technical memorandum was based on. And talking with him, Ken, to address your question, it's very possible to put the solar array, connect it to our existing electrical system, let's call it, and I'm a little short on some of these details, but connect it to our existing system and take advantage of using solar power to power our wastewater treatment plant instead of paying the utility to do that. And then for the X number of years, be it 3, 5, or 10, while we're discussing what we're going to do with the rest of the treatment plant, we'd be saving money on our utility bill. And then when the plant was, the plant and the new electrical room, let's call it, was built, then it's some work, it's some rewiring, but it's a fairly simple operation to connect the solar panels to the new electrical system. So that's I think is one question that you had, Ken, about the location of the electronic equipment. The panels have the micro inverters on the panels, so it is, and I'll put it in quotes, a simple electric connections to our system, so we can start using that solar power instead of utility supplied power.
Okay.
The other option on this federal grant money that's available is that there are 2 dates involved here, and the man I'm talking to is willing to come up and talk to the board and do a much better and more complete job of explaining this than I can. But there are a couple of dates involved here, and if we would sign a contract with a solar installer and pay the down payment of whatever that is, 5-10%, as I understand it, then the project has to be completed by the end of 2027. That's if we start before, let me rephrase that. If we sign a contract by the end of this June, that's June 2026, there is no finish date. We just have to show progress towards completion. The second option, if we sign a contract after June 30th, 2026, then the project has a completion date by the end of 2027, which are, those dates are a little bit different than what was stated in the McMahon proposal.
Okay.
So I think that's a viable option, and we can have someone come up and talk from that company that will explain this much more in detail.
So from listening what you're just saying now, Bruce, so we could act on this at the next board meeting as long as we acted on it by the end of June?
There's two options there. That the end of June is important because if we sign a contract by the end of June, there's no completion deadline to still qualify for the grant money.
Okay.
If we sign after June 30th, then there is a project deadline of the end of 2027. And in the supplier's estimate, this is a 3 to 4 month project from beginning to completion. So either of those dates would work. But to address your question, Ken, yes, I think this could be discussed in depth at next meeting, and we'd have more details and the time to make a decision on that as a standalone project.
Okay, and when you say the construction has to be finished by 2027, that has nothing to do with our wastewater treatment plant project, right? That'd be the construction of the solar installation.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because that solar project, again, would be connected to our existing electrical system. So we can start, so it would be installed, connected, and commissioned in a 3 to 4 month time period.
Okay. I know one of the things that when we reviewed the McMahon report on this or analysis, there was a payback period. So at least personally speaking, if you're going to get these proposals, I would like to see that payback period laid out for us of how long it'll take us to recover the investment.
Yeah, as I say, I think we can get somebody up for the next meeting. It depends on his schedule, of course, to come up and lay that out in detail.
Okay. Is there any reason, does anyone have a problem with inviting them to our next meeting to make this presentation since we have time now in this?
No.
Okay.
Ken,
Yes?
since this is going to get proposed to us, can we have like some visual sheet in front of us proposing exactly where this is going to be and how much of the area that it's going to be in is going to take up?
Bruce, did you hear that question?
Yes, I did. And that is available right now in the technical memorandum that was prepared by McMahon. So that's available for anybody who wants it right now.
Okay. But I don't know that the whole board has seen that. I just don't recall if we went through that part of it. So I think that'd be something that needs to be in our packet so we can all take a look at it. And Bruce, maybe when you're back, you and Brent and I could talk a little bit about the packet for the next board meeting and what we'd like to see in there.
Yes, I'd love to do that.
Okay. Any other comments on the solar? Okay. Then getting back to a motion to delay phase 1 beyond 2026, would somebody be willing to make that motion?
I'll attempt it. I move to delay phase 1 of the 2026 phase 1 plan of the wastewater project while pursuing an option for the solar as a standalone project. Does that make sense?
Did I get a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that is approved. Now, Brent, 10B is discussion regarding wastewater project planning.
I
Did I get ahead of myself on A?
I mean, it certainly dovetails into the
Okay.
other, but yeah, I would say you're definitely covered in that discussion.
Okay, okay. I guess we broke it down into two and I jumped into both of them. Okay, let's go on to number 11. We have one item under airport discussion and consideration regarding approval of lease for hangar A1 with Ephraim Flyers, Inc. Brent.
Yeah, nothing too exciting here to add. It's, the Ephraim Flyers has been a user of airport, had a lease, for a number of years. I believe this is just a renewal. It's not a sale. There's not the right of first refusal, approval of a sale. It's just the lease, and it has been approved by the town of Gibraltar and signed.
Questions?
Is Ephraim Flyers a business? Does anybody know?
What's it, an
I think
LLC?
it's just a
I
LLC.
think it's a group of individuals.
That maybe they own the airplane or this hangar through
I-
through an LLC?
It sounds very familiar. So I kind of think it used to be my dad's, but he's no longer a part of it. So it's at least 2 to 3. Okay.
Definitely
I was like,
was.
why does it
Yep.
sound so
I think it is the same one.
So it is at least 2 owners that have one plane that this is all under their incorporation.
When you say this is a renewal, I should have read this more carefully. Are these leases just good for 20 years then, Brent?
I believe so.
Okay, okay. So this is just a 20-year-old lease that has to be renewed.
Well, an easy renewal for another 10, so it's really a 30-year lease.
Oh, okay. Concerns or comments about the lease?
I have no conflict of interest here.
You don't?
No.
Oh,
My
Dan's
dad
out,
doesn't
okay,
fly anymore. He's
okay.
not part of it.
okay. I'll take a motion.
I move we approve the lease for hangar A1 up at the Ephraim Gibraltar Airport for Ephraim Flyers LLC as presented.
Okay, thank you, Tim. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any other further discussion?
This says incorporated.
Yeah, it says Inc.
Not
Is it-
LLC.
What's the
It's
signature
LLC.
block on that?
It says Inc.
Yes, it does.
Oh.
The agenda says,
The
Well, it
agenda
says
says
it on
Inc.
page 89 of the packet. That says Inc.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Page 89. Yeah, it says Inc.
Inc, okay.
Inc.
Modify the Inc.
Modify my motion to approve the airport hangar lease up at Ephraim Gibraltar Airport for Ephraim Flyers, Inc., as discussed.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. The lease is approved. Okay, committee minutes for review. Any comments on committee minutes? Then number 12, new business for next meeting. Anyone want to put anything on the agenda for next meeting? We've mentioned a couple things that will be on there now.
We might have, after the upcoming meeting of CPC, a review of the emergency plan.
Oh, good,
We have a draft.
good. Yeah, we still owe that back to the county. Okay. Now take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.